This program is brought to you by Pussy Magnets.
Put a midge on your friends with a pussy magnet.
Oh, hey! Welcome, 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 my lovely lumps. Or should I say lovely labs? I don't know, they're both good. I'm so thrilled to have you here in the Labia Lounge to yarn about all things sexuality, womanhood, holistic health, and everything in between. Your legs. Oh, cringe. I couldn't help myself. Anyway, I am your host, Freya Graff, and I am a holistic sex coach and educator and yoni mapping therapist. So basically, I make my living massaging vaginas and teaching people about sex. Yeah, pretty cool. So as you can imagine, we are going to have vag loads of real chats with real people about real shit. So buckle up, you're about to receive the sex ed that you never had and have a bloody good laugh while you're at it. Before we get stuck in though, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording this podcast, the Menang people. It's an absolute privilege to be living and creating dope podcast content on Noongar country, and I pay respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. Now, if y'all are ready, let's flap and do this. Oh, is there such thing as having too many vagina jokes in the one intro? Whatever. I'm leaving it in. It's my podcast.
Don't panic, you're not broken. Your sex education was a piece of shit. Get your flaps out and pull up a couch. It's the Labia Lounge.
Hey, 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 you labial ledge bags. I'm so stoked to have you back in the lounge with me today. I've got a ripper guest for you who I'm going to be chatting with. So I'm just going to launch in by telling you a bit about him first. We've got Ryder Jack, who's one of the country's most unique and engaging facilitators with a passion for working with Australian men to drive positive behaviour change. So this is pretty impressive. He's got just under 20 years of experience. And his talents for disrupting the old school male stereotype with men young and old are unmatched, and I can seriously attest to that. Ryder's a master of creating safe spaces that give permission for males to actively practice healthy traits that strengthen emotional muscle, communication, resilience, and help seeking. So it's pretty important stuff. Ryder has led countless immersive experiences with Australian schools, amateur and elite sporting organisations, and male prominent work environments, directly impacting over 50,000 motherfucking men. And at only 35 years old, he still plays footy for his local club and prides himself on the culture they're creating there. Ryder's also a father to 2 young boys with an incredible partner who's played a massive role in shaping the man he is today. Fab stuff. And this guy's seriously just so passionate, so talented. I've gotten so many laughs out of his awesome sense of humour over the years as well. And so I thought it would be a really great match to have him on the potty. So welcome, Ryder. Pull up a clit cushion.
Whoa, what an intro. You set the bar too high, Freya. I'm out. That's it. I'm done.
Sweet, potty over. See you later.
Yeah, thanks. That was easy.
Cool. Well, you know, I've done something like 30 episodes now. I'm slowly getting a little bit more polished at this, but yeah, there's been a lot of brain farts in the process as well. So,
No, good work.
Anyway, I'm stoked to have you here. It's nice to see your face. I actually haven't seen you for years. But yeah, I've always sort of loosely followed your work ever since we met, probably like 8 years ago or something. And I've just always been picking up what you're putting down, like into everything you do, into the things that you're interested in and passionate about. And just, yeah, it's been a really cool trajectory to see you sort of meander along and just do cool shit in the world. I will mention that you have it's probably really old and you're probably like, oh no, don't say that. But you have some great creative things online as well. I've showed several people the YouTube series Dad Hard because I still get such lols out of that.
I still think it's the best thing I've ever done.
did. How would you describe it? Little mini YouTube series about how to dad hard.
Yeah, I guess when I became a dad, I was like, who am I? What does this all mean? And all the stuff I was seeing online was like super cheesy and just didn't really resonate with me. So I just wanted to kind of take the piss out of parent how-to videos by doing basically stunts with my newborn big-headed baby. It was really silly and cynical and fun and just good to make something when I felt like I needed some sort of creative outlet.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I loved about it. I was like, fuck me, like trust Ryder to have like a young kid and still manage to find a creative outlet that he can weave into parenthood. Like, yeah, really cool stuff. So definitely check that out, listeners. But I'd love to just get a little bit of background with the work that you're doing nowadays. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about your work with Tomorrow Man?
Yeah. So I work for an organisation called Tomorrow Man, but who works alongside another organisation called Tomorrow Woman. But most of my experience has been in the male space. So we basically travel around Australia going into male-dominant environments, exploring the current state of gender and masculinity in particular. So we don't give the answers, but we do create spaces where men can work it out for themselves. So what's working, what isn't working, and what does a man of tomorrow look like? Men are really good when life's going well, but when shit hits the fan or they face a crisis, we're quite good at isolating or avoiding or not dealing with it. So I guess we're providing men with training grounds to be able to have tough conversations, to have some flexibility with the stereotypes, so that, you're better prepared for the toughest day of your life. So that's kind of one part of what I do. So I just got involved with that because a mate started at a guy called Tom Harkin, who is just like a maestro of a facilitator. And he got the opportunity to... Oh, you know Tom? Sick.
Yeah.
He just he got the opportunity and needed experienced facilitators, and it's just grown and grown since then. And then obviously there's Tomorrow Woman doing similar space, working with women. Obviously, as you know, there's a lot of noise, a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations, a lot of you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So women just need spaces where they can speak up and be brave, not perfect, and challenge some of that awful conditioning that unfortunately women go through with how we're raising girls.
Yeah. Wow, absolutely. And are you sort of, because I know your background's been mostly with men and young, like teenage boys and stuff, are you learning a whole lot of really cool stuff through your work with Tomorrow Woman?
Oh my God. It's I find it pretty confronting, to be honest, because I'm sitting in the back of the room training our facilitators, and you're seeing these girls, like 15-year-old young women who are so articulate and empathetic and switched on, and they see all this gold in one another, but they can't see the gold in themselves, which I just find bizarre, because I'm just kind of like secretly cheering them on. But unfortunately, just because of all those societal pressures and expectations, they're just so hard on themselves. So, yeah, I've learned a heap. It's helped me understand the women in my life a lot more. And part of me wishes that I could raise my own girls. Like, I have 2 sons, and I'd love to have a daughter, but I'm not willing to have a gamble and end up with 3 boys. But part of me would love the idea of, raising a little girl to take risks and be bold and unapologetic, and kind of like you, Freya. Raise a girl like you.
Oh, yeah. It would be a gamble though, wouldn't it? I'm like, damn, you need to have a girl, because I feel like there need to be girls being raised by like fathers like you. But oh God, my cousins had like 4 boys before they managed to get a girl, and then you just got 5 fucking kids. So no thanks.
Yeah, nah, fuck that. No thank you.
I just think it's so incredible to sort of and so essential, just so important, the work that you're doing and that these organizations are doing. It's really cool. I remember I guess I met you back when you worked for Reach, which was also a cool organization. That's kind of how I know of Tom Harkin. And then there's been a fair bit of movement in that sort of space since then, which is awesome. Is Tomorrow Man and Tomorrow Woman, you were saying you were training facilitators at the age of 15 or something. Is it similar to Reach in that you're working with young people and training young facilitators?
So, yeah, great question. So the idea of the Reach Foundation is inspiring young people to inspire other young people. Tomorrow Man and Tomorrow Woman are probably working with older people, so year 10s and up.
Mm-hmm.
So we go into regional towns, sporting clubs, that kind of stuff. So we're probably focusing a bit more on gender as opposed to Reach, which is more about potential and confidence and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but as you said, that mental health awareness is just the market is so busy at the moment, which is great. So I don't see any of the organisations as competitors. Everyone's out there trying to do the right thing and just help people live a more full life. So, it's wild, all the amazing organisations out there.
So good. I feel like the tricky thing, I don't know because I haven't really worked in that realm, but I feel like one of the tricky things would be to try to serve up this work in a way that was like cool or accessible or palatable to, like, you know, especially, so if we take men for an example, I feel like maybe especially in those male dominant environments or like sports clubs or whatever, surely there'd be a bit of that sort of conditioned toxic masc where they're like, this is fucking gay, I don't want to be a little pussy and talk about my feelings. So like what are your strategies for like kind of sneaking the veggies in with the meat, or, you know, like whatever metaphor you want?
What a metaphor. That's amazing. Great question. So obviously people can be pretty skeptical or get pretty defensive when they even talk about gender or that kind of thing, or people being scared of change. So I tend to, when I'm in those environments, whether that's a prison or a rugby club or something like that, I usually just ease them in with a bit of humour. I might also bully the alpha. That seems to get a little bit of props in the room. So just kind of show the alpha that I'm not going to put up with any crap, but also that I got your back. But basically what we do is the men themselves build out what they think the stereotype is, and then we have a really cool discussion about, what are the positive traits? What are the things that are good? Like sport, hard work, resilience, they're all good traits. But then when we flip it, there's obviously some things that are pretty limiting, not just to ourselves, but harmful to those around us. So it's pretty obvious. I think it's pretty logical. If you can't cry, if you can't express emotions, if you can't ask for help, it's just not sustainable. And men can't argue with that because we've all been touched by the stuff that's happening out there, whether that is suicide or mental health or violence or negative risk-taking behaviours. So for sure, I love it. Yeah, at the start, guys might be cynical, going, "Who the hell are these guys? What are they? What would they know?" But we're not really preaching anything. We're just asking questions, and they can kind of work it out themselves. They just need the right environment to do so, and that's why my work's so exciting, because you'll get a whole mix of people in a room. I've sometimes had to deal with men's rights activists who I don't align with at all or agree with at all, but as soon as I'm able to ask some questions and find out why they're so fired up, it often comes from a bit of pain or sadness or that kind of thing. And then once that heat neutralizes, you get to understand the bloke going, fuck, he's just got a broken heart, or he feels betrayed or that kind of stuff. And I think there's all these universal things that connect us all together, no matter our socioeconomic situation, education, that kind of stuff. And I think, men just crave a sense of belonging. They act the whole time like they don't give a shit, but all they want is just to be accepted.
Yeah. Oh, I've got goosebumps. And like that kind of makes me think of like something that really bugs me is sort of, you know, it's like this really black and white man-hating attitude that that believes that the patriarchy has only harmed women. And I just think it's like such a nuanced topic with so many layers and angles. And like, yes, obviously the patriarchy is set up to benefit men in a lot of ways, but I just feel like it's not as black and white as that. So I'd love to hear from your perspective and, you know, with all your experience working with men and being a man and raising boys, how do you see that the patriarchy really harms men as well?
Such a big question. I love it.
Yeah, sorry.
So just to kind of mention as well. No. Yeah, let's deconstruct the patriarchy on a Tuesday morning. So we've basically started piloting content where we bring all the genders together. Just want to acknowledge that tomorrow man, tomorrow woman sounds very binary. And me and the organisations by no means don't believe that gender is binary. We think it's a scale. And wherever people fit on that scale, love to them. But we first need to deconstruct the binary genders because we've predominantly lived in a heteronormative history society. So we need to unpack them because they impact all the genders. So the reason why I bring that up is we're bringing genders together to have these conversations. And it's, as you said, it's fucking complex and it's heated and it's confusing. Women are fired up and they should be. The patriarchy has been really, really harmful. So, of course, girls are fired up. They want equality. They want their rights, and I'm completely a part of that. But as a result of that, young boys in particular just completely disengage from the conversation because they're terrified that if they get it wrong, they're going to get their head bitten off or they're going to get cancelled or something like that. So what I think is most important when we have these conversations is let's find some middle ground, let's reduce the heat, and let's just be really curious and respectful of one another. I want to know about your experience of gender, what it's been like for you. To go back to what you're saying about how to unpack or how to deconstruct the patriarchy, I think the way that it harms men is just, like all the stats that are out there. We're losing 7 men a day to suicide. The mental health numbers are really underrepresented because men can't help seek. So when you see that like 1 in 8 men live with depression, that's inaccurate because think about all the people out there who have mental health issues and haven't gone to a doctor because they think it's weak. So there's all that stuff that's kind of harming men. And I think just as we've seen, like female leadership, especially in corporations and stuff, is really shifting the way that businesses operate. And some of those more nurturing leadership styles or feminine female styles are really good for people because they're compassionate and they're empathetic. So it's such a big kind of head fuck to kind of think about. Like I've been dipping my toes into how did it even start? How did it all start? And that's fascinating because when we were nomadic, gender roles weren't as extreme. Everyone did their bit to kind of survive and raise the village and raise the people. And then as soon as people realised that there's agriculture and we can get resources off the land, people started getting greedy. And as a result of getting greedy, gender roles started kicking in. And anyway, it's like I don't even know where to go with this, Freya, because there's just like it's just
huge.
such a massive, complex thing. So just stop me from
totally.
waffling, please, because I'll just go on tangents.
No, it's all so good. It's
Excuse this unseemly interruption, my darlings. I must ask a wee little favour of you. I'm shamelessly seeking reviews and 5-star ratings for the poddy because, as I'm sure you've noticed by now, it's pretty fab, and the more people who get to hear it, the more people it can help. Reviews and ratings make it more likely to get recognised by the algorithmic gods and suggested to other listeners to check out. Plus, they make me feel pretty good and appreciated as I continue to pour my heart and soul into creating this baby for you. Now, I promise I don't mazz over them or anything like that. I mostly just read them out to Locke with a big grin on my face, and he says something like, "See, you're killing it. Proud of you, babe." And then I tuck it away for a rainy day when I'm filled with self-doubt and existential dread about being self-employed. So, doing this really does make a difference and is an easy little act of support that you can take in just a minute or two by either going to Spotify and leaving 5 stars for the show or writing a written review and leaving 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts. Or if you're a real overachiever, you could do both. Whoa now. That would be kind of crazy. Crazy awesome, obviously. Like, that would be super ideal. Would love that. If you're writing a review, though, just be sure to only use G-rated words, because despite the fact that this is a podcast about sexuality and all that good stuff, the platforms censor words like sex and won't actually show your review. Lame. Anyway, you're gonna do it right now while I wait? Oh yeah, no, awesome, great. That's like, yeah, great idea. May as well just like quickly click that 5-star button before we get on with it and, forget or whatever. I mean, life just kind of gets in the way sometimes, so I totally agree. It would be best to just do it now while we're talking about it, while we're on the topic. Totally. Yep. Oh, I can feel those 5-star reviews rolling in. Fuck yeah. All right. Well, thank you much, Lee. You're a total gem, and I'll let you get back to the episode now. Love ya.
Yeah, I was like, well, this is a pretty large and vague question, but I think you did a perfect job. And it's the kind of thing that's like, fuck, where do you start? It's just, tip of the iceberg, really, what we could cover in a podcast. So yeah, I think you did amazingly. And I think it's becoming more and more obvious to people, the damage that it's doing to everyone. It's not as black and white as like the patriarchy is good for men and bad for women. Like we're way past that. Like no one's thinking that anymore, hopefully. So yeah, thanks for addressing that.
And just to add one more thing.
Yeah.
Like the word, I think people misunderstand the word feminism, and men think, we're going to lose our power or women are out to get us. It's not. It's just about equality.
Totally.
And yeah, I don't know. I think if people could get less defensive and not feel like a whole gender is being attacked.
Yeah,
it'd
for
be
sure.
better.
Yeah, totally. And it's, I think there's been different like expressions of feminism or different waves or whatever, and some of them have been more helpful than others, because that really like angry, kind of hateful, like love the fieriness, but then if you're kind of coming at it from like angriness and making it really polarized, then that's not really going to help anyone. And I think there's this kind of tendency sometimes for like certain people who, and this is like, and I'm not super educated on this, but I sort of notice that sometimes people who label themselves feminists have a certain expression of feminism that's like very much just trying to beat men at their own game and play by the men's rules to prove that they're powerful and they're deserving of respect, and just sort of do everything in a really masculine way to almost alpha the men. But it's like, hang on, this isn't helpful at all, because that's not really even how we kind of work as anyway, it's a complex topic, but yeah, it's good to point. I like the way you pointed out that about feminism, and now I'm having a full brain fart moment. Anyway, it's so big. It's like every time you try and talk about it, like even
no, it's,
oh my God, I'm going to say something wrong and then I'm going to get cancelled, and then your brain starts like freaking out, and then I get tongue tied. Like it actually happens to me in conversations regularly.
No, but I hear you. Like, I'm a massive Clem Ford fan, and I've learned a heap of her books. Like, her stuff has made me such a better partner and better man. But I can't recommend her to some of my mates, my footy mates in particular, because they can't even. They just get they feel so attacked, and I'm like, it's like I can read it and not get attacked, because I'm like, I hear you, girl. Like, sorry, I hear you, girl. I hear you, woman. Like, I'm learning heaps off this, but yeah, you're right. It's such a kind of tiptoey, walking on eggshells kind of time. Because
totally.
PC culture.
I know, dude. Oh, anyway, let's shift gears. I want to do the segment "Get Pregnant and Die."
Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die. Don't have sex in the missionary position. Don't have sex standing up. Just don't do it. Promise?
All right, what do you got? Do you have a story for us about how your sex education failed you? Maybe something you would have liked to have learned more about? Just a general sex ed related anecdote.
All right. So, as hard as it is for me to say, I assume my parents have a very sexual relationship. I think it's been consistent. Yeah, I shared a room with them next door, and I don't think I heard them, but I remember always being really fucking disgusted or terrified if they were having sex. Anyway, they claimed that they had the talk with me. I don't remember having the talk with them. But I do remember, what year was I in? Must have been in year 9. And I had my girlfriend, and she was my girlfriend that I kind of progressed with, like the kissing to the fingering to the anyway, I could just feel the progression coming towards cunnilingus is not my favorite word, but I could tell it was coming up to the time where I was. If
you're
with
gonna
her
eat some
consent,
pussy,
was going to go down on her. Yeah, I was going to eat some pussy, but I had no bloody idea about how to do it or anything about vaginas or labias or anything like that. So I caught up with So I was a bit of a late bloomer, and I caught up with a mate. It must have been after school, and we're having like a deep chat and talking about feelings and just stuff that we didn't usually talk about with the other boys. And I because we were being so open with each other, I asked him about how to go down on someone. And he just gave really, the advice he gave me at the time was don't go anywhere near the lower half of the vagina, only kind of focus on the top. And he's like, just do that and you'll be fine. And I was like, okay. I was like, that sounds pretty simple. Just focus on the top, nowhere near the bottom. Anyway, he didn't kind of give me any other kind of tips or information, and we're at a party, and me and my girlfriend at the time were upstairs and we were making out, and I just started kind of going down there, without anything else, and she was clearly uncomfortable, so I was like, okay, sweet, I didn't read this well, let's kind of, we awkwardly stopped and went back downstairs to the party, and I just felt pretty weird. And then anyway, a mutual friend of ours, this young woman, she a few hours later went up to me and said, Ryder, can we talk? And I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, all right. So she took me to a private room, and she was like, Ryder, can I give you some advice? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'd love some advice. I didn't know what the hell the advice was going to be. And she said, when baking, you can't just dive straight into the oven. You need to warm the oven up first. And I was like, my head kind of exploded. I was like, that's amazing advice. So she was essentially teaching me about foreplay. It's like, you can't just dive straight in there. You need to build up to it. So yeah, I thought that was incredible advice from a 15-year-old girl.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my story.
Oh, love that. That's probably one of my favorite ones podcast so far. Oh, wow. So cute. You were just trying your best. That's great, though. I'm pretty impressed with her for even, I definitely didn't know shit about foreplay when I was that age. I wouldn't have been able to give you any good advice at all. I was terrified of cunnilingus. Yeah, nice one.
Hey, Babe Towns. So sorry to interrupt, but I simply had to pop my head into the lounge here and mention another virtual lounge that you've seriously got to get around. It's the Labia Lounge Facebook group that I've created for listeners of the potty to mingle in, and there you'll find extra bits and bobs like freebies or discounts for offerings from guests who have been interviewed on the podcast, inspiring and valuable content, thought-provoking conversations, and just general support from a community of labial legends. It's a safe, non-judgmental space where you can go to ask the questions that you can't ask anywhere else, seek advice or solidarity from other like-minded folk, tell stories that are usually too much for the average conversation, and also play a role in shaping the podcast with your input. So through this group, you can submit stories that you'd like me to read out for the TMI, Sand in My Clam, and Get Pregnant and Die segments. And as well, you can send in questions or topics that you would like covered on the potty. I'm always open to suggestions and input, and you never know, you might hear your story on an episode. So my vision for the group is that it becomes a really rewarding, supportive, educational, and hilarious resource for you to access and be a part of. So head over to the link in the show notes or just search up the Labia Lounge group on the old Facey, and I hope I see you in there. And now, back to the episode.
So, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your work with Tomorrow Woman. So you touched on it a bit before, but if you could elaborate on some of the main things that you educate or work with women on through that organisation, that would be awesome.
So at Tomorrow Woman, they look at the idea of how we raise girls versus how we raise boys, which I think is really fascinating. I just even noticed the way that people speak to my boys versus how they speak to girls the same age. The boys get encouraged for being rough or for taking risks or for being wild. And then I noticed things that people say to little girls like, oh, you're so pretty. Look how polite she is. Look how quiet she is. So these behaviours getting affirmed from a pretty young age. Statistically, a lot of girls start losing their voice by the age of 11, and not by like their voice breaking or it disappearing. The noise of those expectations start to happen. And as a result of it, they're not putting up their hand as much in class or that kind of stuff. There's also interesting numbers around how qualified a woman thinks she needs to be in order to go for a job. It's like over 90%, when often guys who are only 60% qualified will still go for a job. So in the workshops in Tomorrow Woman, they look at all this stuff. They look at the expectations, that damned if you do, damned if you don't. Wear makeup, but don't wear too much makeup. Have this Kardashian body. Don't be a slut, but don't be frigid. Don't be a bitch, but don't be a pushover. It's just so complex, and that's only me naming a few of them. And they look at the impact of those expectations, how it silences people, how it kind of impacts them. And then the whole messaging that Tomorrow Women are promoting is to speak up, to be able to talk about these topics, make it normal for us to kind of discuss these things. And this idea to be brave, not perfect. Once again, training grounds for women to have these conversations, to speak up so that, once the stakes are high, they've had an experience of doing it, they've seen other women do it, which hopefully encourages them to do the same. And then just like different communication skills, like being brave, not perfect. Oh, no, sorry, I said that already. Being curious instead of judgmental. Obviously, there's a bit of a fear of judgment that affects a lot of people, but encouraging women to be curious and ask questions and find out more about each other.
Awesome. Yeah, so cool. Oh, love all of that. I just filmed a video for this online course I'm creating at the moment, that was all about that kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, the don't be a slut, but don't be a frigid. And it's such a huge thing. So it's really cool hearing that you guys are like digging into that and having these conversations and creating a safe space where people can explore it. And yeah, it's amazing. So good. And I'd imagine that, like, the career that you've had and all of the work that you've done, there's just so much reflection and delving into the shit that people don't talk about or think about, and so much personal development. Like, how is it, and this is probably a bit of an ambiguous question as well, but how is it kind of equipped you and changed the way that you experience your friendships and your relationships and, being a dad? And like, I'm sure it's just totally enhanced your life in so many ways, right?
I don't know. I think I've just always kind of been this way. I've always been really curious about people, and I've always been pretty bold in the way that I meet people, like just viciously, unapologetically extroverted. So I think I've always kind of prided myself on my friendships and my relationships. I've got a feeling that when my boys are teenagers, they're going to hate me, because I'll be like, Hey, boys, I understand what you're going through. I've worked with thousands and thousands of teenage boys. I know exactly what's going on. They'll be like, fuck off, Dad. So even though I think I know, I'm definitely not perfect. I'm definitely not the finished product, but I am quite self-aware. So times when I'm at my worst, when I'm moody and I'm irritable and impatient, I feel pretty guilty, even though it happens a lot. But every morning I kind of wake up and try to kind of psych myself to be the best dad, best partner, best person I can be. But I think, doing this work, I think is the main thing it's done is just given me a lot more awareness, a lot more self-awareness. And I guess just like impulse control and using my filter better, like, because every impulse I have is to take the piss out of something, just kind of being a smart ass my whole life. And I think even though I get a lot of laughs, I think in the past I've hurt a lot of people. So just trying to kind of have a bit more control of that. And I don't have to crack every joke that kind of pops into my head. But yeah, it's such a big one because I think just like my path has been quite logical, like in my 20s making a lot of content and documentaries and still trying to do the same thing, which is allow people to be authentic and who are you when you're not judged and can be your full self. And then it's kind of moved quite nicely to be doing that in rooms full of people doing the same kind of thing. Like, yeah, who are you? And just the real shit, I guess.
Yeah, it's actually kind of incredible. I mean, it makes so much sense, your trajectory, but it is amazing. You've sort of found either career paths or jobs or like creative pursuits that have just like fitted your exact skill set and interests and niche so perfectly. It's like, yeah, you're completely built for this sort of work. So it's pretty special, really. Like, I don't know that many people that have had, such an aligned path when it comes, like, it took me so many years to find like something that fit me and my skill sets and my interests. And, I did lots of different jobs that weren't very aligned or that, were okay for a little while and then not. But like, yeah, you're pretty unique in that your entire, like, so far as I know, like your sort of path has always been pretty fucking on point for the shit that you care about, and it all complements one another. Like, it's all, yeah.
That surprises me to hear that about yourself, because you just seem like someone who, when you have a creative idea, you fully pursue it and kind of commit to it. Curious to know from you, like, what was your turning point? Because you said it took you a while to kind of get to that point. Like, because I don't even know how old you are.
I'm 31, so I think we're kind of similar age. I think like I probably really did struggle because of all of that stuff you're talking about, where like women are, damned if they do, damned if they don't. And I was kind of taught to be really fierce and fiery and like stand up for myself, but at the same time bullied a lot and teased for being different or for being out there or speaking my mind. And it was kind of like rewarded in some places of my life and then really like punished or looked down on in other areas. So I was kind of always a little bit torn, definitely an outsider a lot, pretty kind of confused about what I wanted to do in the world because I had a lot of different interests and so many different directions that I could go in. And so I think that kind of like jack of all trades, master of none thing really played on my mind a lot because I was like, okay, what do I want to do? Well, I'll try. I love cooking, so I'll try patisserie and chocolate making and do that. And then, that's actually something I like as a hobby, not as a career. All right, I'll try childcare because I like kids and I'm fascinated by like early development. And then, oh my God, I can't fucking do this. Otherwise I'll never have my own kids because I'm so burnt out all the time. So let's move on to something else. And I think like the turning point was around when I met you, I reckon, because I was starting to get into like personal development and really looking at my patterns and my traumas and my limiting beliefs about the world and what I was capable of and what kind of life I could have. And I was like, hang on, I don't need to just like go down this path of like doing a 9-to-5 job or finding a career that suits me. I can actually, and I think I started a business, and I started a few businesses that didn't really work out because I couldn't stick with one thing. And I still had so much imposter syndrome and like fear of failure that I would give up on them. But yeah, I kind of like bopped around doing, homemade skincare, which I'm still kind of dabbling in with one of our mutual friends. So yeah, look forward to the Motion Lotion organic lube that we're currently putting out. And then I was like a kids entertainer, being a fairy at birthday parties and educating them on recycling and the environment and whatever. And, just various things that kind of made sense but didn't stick. And then because I got so into like working on myself, I realized that like the last frontier when it came to stuff like facing my fears and the shit that really challenged me that I needed to sort out in my life was like sexuality. So then I went on my journey of like healing my own relationship with my body and sexuality, intimacy, and all of that. And that ended up just being something I was so passionate about and made so much sense as a career path that it kind of just then things started actually just flowing, and it was like one foot in front of the other. Like a workshop or a training would pop up and I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'm going to do that. And then I don't know, next minute I was like, oh, I guess I'm like fully working in the sexuality industry now. Like this is my whole jam. I do other things and stuff as interests and hobbies, but like for the most part, it got easier and easier to just like, zero in on this one thing that I feel like is so, needs so much work. And it's like, I've got like the amount of passion and creativity that's accessible to me now that I'm doing this work is enormous. And so I'm like, oh, I'm on the right track. This is, this is what I'm meant to be doing, at least for now. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah.
Oh, it does. It does. It's so impressive because I just think about the amount of people who might have as many ideas as you, but just not pursue it. And I know you said you've tried a million different things, but I think that all just adds to like the Freya who you are. And it's just, I just love it. Like you kind of, you walk the walk. And sure, you've found a space now where all your skills and strengths can kind of flow and collaborate. But I just think you're going to be someone who continues doing innovative things. It's cool. Very cool.
Oh, fuck yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, I feel like even just with this podcast, I was like so scared of starting a podcast for years, but wanted to because I love listening to them and I love talking. I love having real conversations. I love having an excuse to hit up people and be like, yo, come on my podcast and talk to me about sex. So it's like, even just this one project, which is quite fresh, is already feeling like, fuck yeah, this is my sweet spot. This is what I could do with all my time, and I want to take it on the road. I'm currently getting a friend of mine, or my ex actually, in Melbourne to make me like a big life-size vulva couch to sort of take the Labia Lounge on tour and go to festivals and set up and just have real conversations with people and like
Epic.
Get some engagement happening. Yeah, so yeah, thank you. So I reckon I'll use this opportunity to segue into TMI. We love it.
TMI, we love it. Said TMI, we love it.
So this is the chance to chat about pretty much any kind of topic that would be usually too stigmatized, too taboo, too hush-hush to be discussed in a regular conversation. So what people would consider to be TMI, I'm just trying to like get it all out there.
So I don't know. I talk about a whole range of different things. Like I probably get in trouble sometimes for that. So I think one that kind of comes to mind is pretty recent, and it's with my 3-year-old boy. A mate of mine was doing work placement at my kid's daycare. So he's just been giving me amazing insight because obviously I don't see my son at daycare. And my little 3-year-old is he's very bold, and he kind of speaks like this a little bit. So we're working on his speech therapy, but he's just beautiful, and he's crazy, and he's chaos, and he's hectic and everything. So they were doing a Mother's Day preparation thing a few weeks ago, and basically my mate got the kids to close their eyes and just do a bit of a reflection on who is mummy and what does she mean to you, and what colour would you associate mummy with. And apparently all the kids were picking like pinks and purples and red, and my 3-year-old said the colour black. And my mate went, "Oh, why the colour black for mummy?" And he goes, "'Cause that's the colour of her vagina." Because she's got black hair, so he just must have got, that's just what he associated her with.
He's seen her in the shower.
So I think that was probably too much information. He's seen her in the shower, and he's surrounded by dickies and ballies. So when he sees mummy's vagina, he's like, "Whoa, what is that?" It's amazing. So we've tried to like really normalize all these conversations and not put the shame in it, because obviously, as you know, in your line of work, shame and intimacy is a very dangerous combination. But we just laughed heaps because we were just like, none of the other kids would have said that. It's very cute.
Oh, love that. That's a great one. Thank you. That kind of leads in perfectly to my last little. I want to touch upon, being a dad to 2 boys before we wrap up, and like as a dad and with all your experience working with men, like what are some things that you're super conscious of, like knowing what you know, and like how does this affect how you parent them?
Yeah, great question. I feel, to be honest, under a lot of pressure because I see firsthand the impact of conditioning to boys and men. This whole straitjacket of like, can't dance a certain way because of stereotypes, or can't express myself, or all this kind of stuff. So I feel like these early years, as you mentioned before, are just vital. So I just find it fascinating. Like they're born as a blank canvas. It's just that they're a baby, and you give it love, and you look after it, and you keep it safe, and all this kind of stuff. And me and my partner have really put in a concerted effort to not put any gender expectations on them. So, just being really mindful of that. But as soon as they're out in like social environments, they learn pretty quickly. I call them, to my 6-year-old, the pretend boy and girl rules. So him as young as 3 was getting told at daycare, boys can't have long hair, and you can't like rainbows, and you can't like unicorns, all the stuff that kind of he was all about.
Fuck off.
And like, just stuff like, oh, you can't be Wonder Woman. When we play superheroes, I was like, yeah, come on, mate. So we've always had really open dialogue about that. He's in prep now, so they're going through the like, you kiss girls kind of stuff. And his best mate is a girl. And I was like, dude, you can't say that to people, because like, how do you feel when people tease you about your friendship with so-and-so? But it's just all the social, it's just fascinating because they're trying to fit in. They're just copying each other. They're copying off older people and that kind of stuff. So, my main thing is like my main priority with raising my boys is that they're compassionate, empathetic, and just confident in themselves. That's kind of the thing that's most important to me. So, I try to role model that. Like, even though I think I can be way too impatient, I'm the first one to apologize. And when I do apologize, I explain why. And I think as a result, they're really emotionally intelligent boys. What happened the other week? My mum's mourning because my grandmother passed away, and she was just a massive part of our life. And my mum was really emotional at the dinner table, talking about something, and just my eldest just kind of went up to her and could just see that she was upset and was really trying to nurture her and stuff. So those moments make me super proud as a dad. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's the whole time. Like I say weird stuff to them. My partner has this joke. She's like, "Oh, that's the therapy fund." So when you say weird shit to them, you have to put some coins in the therapy fund. We don't actually have a therapy fund, but it's more just when I say weird rogue shit to them.
Hey, me again. If you'd like to support the potty and you've already given it 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening on, I want to mention that you can also buy some dope merch from my website and get yourself a Labia Lounge tote, tee, togs. Yep, you heard that right. I even have Labia Lounge bathers. Or a cute fanny pack if that'd blow your hair back. Or if fashion isn't your passion, you can donate to my Buy Me a Coffee donation page, which I actually call Buy Me a Soy Chai Latte, because I will be the first to admit I'm a bit of a Melbourne cafe tosser like that. And yes, that is my coffee order. So you can do a once-off donation or an ongoing membership and sponsor me for as little as 3 fat ones a month. Every bit helps because it's not cheap to put out a sweet podcast into the world every week out of my own pocket. So I will be undyingly grateful if you support me financially in this way. And if you like, I'll even give you a mental BJ with my mind from the lounge itself, which is at this early stage in Double L history, just the spare bedroom at my house. Anyway, I'll pop the links in the show notes. Later.
But no, I love being a dad. It's literally, they're just a mirror to your bullshit. So it's made me a way better person because negative traits within me show up in them and I want to kind of fix that. So when my boy's being a control freak or when he's saying mean stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, I need to adjust that because he's probably picking that up off someone. And yeah, it's been really good for me and it's been really good for our relationship. Like we know a lot of people that once they have kids, it kind of can end the relationship, and it's made me and my partner way stronger because I grew up with my parents just bluing constantly. Like they have the most intense like confrontations and stuff, and it really impacted me. So I kind of consciously went into raising my own kids, not allowing my kids to be exposed to that. But it's probably gone too far now because when me and my partner are talking about maybe someone at work, the boys start going, "Stop squabbling." And we're like, dude, we're not squabbling. We're not having an argument or anything. We're just like, so they're not used to it at all. So we probably need to find a bit more of an adjustment, a bit more of a sweet spot.
Yeah, totally. It's kind of reminds me of like, so my parents also were pretty like toxic dynamic, like lots of fighting, it was pretty unhealthy and they were really unhappy. And so I'm pretty used to, you know, like confrontational, loud yelling and anger and like, yeah. And my partner, Lockie, bless his cotton socks, his parents, I don't even know if they can raise their voices. It is like almost sickening how sweet they are. It's like fucked up. I don't even know how to relate. I'm just like, and so they're still together. Like, you know, my parents are not together. His parents, it's like full, perfect little nuclear family. And I'm sure they've, you know, everyone's got their shit, but they've done a really good job of like never speaking even like with a sharp tone to their kids or to each other in front of their kids or whatever. And I've kind of gathered this from spending a bit of time with them, but mostly through how my partner Lockie responds if I use a sharp tone or if I'm a bit blunt or impatient or if I even like raise my voice in frustration, like literally have never even yelled, but it's like I've kicked a Labrador puppy and he's just like, that's not okay. You cannot talk to someone you love like that. It's not what people do. And I'm like, what do you fucking mean? Like that's all my family did. And so it's really interesting because we've come up against this like super incompatible like background where it's been work. It's really good, obviously, and I'm seeing it as an opportunity and a gift, and it's helping me work on stuff that I like. You know, if I had a choice, would I bring up my children like my family did or like his? Definitely like his, but I feel like sometimes he's got really thin skin for this. Yeah, middle ground. They need to be like resilient and tough and be able to handle a little bit of confrontation and not like sugarcoat everything and pussyfoot around. But I also don't want to be bringing, my background into how I parent much at all, ideally. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a wake-up call for me as well, just like him calling me out on, any kind of impatience in my tone or like being a little bit too sharp, which I do like about myself as well. But, yeah, it's really interesting just trying to find a middle ground that we're both comfortable with, because he's nowhere near as tolerant of any of that. And I'm probably just a little bit more thick-skinned because that was, just how it was growing up. So it sounds like you a bit.
I really relate to that. And it's really cool that you two are able to have dialogue about it even when it gets really tough, because most people, it's too hard and they're just like, I'm not going to go there. But you two are going to create something really cool together in your relationship, because it's just balance. Those two competing sides you'll learn off him as you are, and he'll learn off you. That's super cool. I loved hearing that.
Yeah. It's just an ever evolving conversation, and I think medicine for both of us, because like he needs maybe my strong boundaries and I need maybe his kind of soft compassion. And I mean, I am compassionate, but and we talk about like how you were talking about all the things you think about and that you're aware of as a parent, and not wanting to fuck them up, and being like self-aware enough to even be thinking about this and having these conversations and stuff. Like we don't even have kids, but we talk about it all the time, because I'm totally terrified of bringing up kids in this world, in this day and age, with porn and social media. And like, no matter what we do, the other kids at school are going to talk about stuff, or like there's only so much control you can have. And I don't want to be, it's like the only solution in my mind is, well, we're just going to have to take them onto an island and homeschool them and show them only cool things and mold them into cool humans. And it's like, but I know that's not possible or healthy. And so we're always talking about like, how can we minimize the damage of like cultural conditioning and socialization and the shit that they're going to pick up out in the world, and like what kind of culture can we create in the family to, negate that and to build resilience. And like, it blows my fucking mind thinking about it. I'm nowhere near ready to have kids, but Lockie's just like, oh babe, like the fact that we're even talking about this is probably better than 90% of parents, so like it's going to be fine.
Oh, spot on. Yeah, no one's ever ready. It's just like, once it happens, once you got the little thing in front of you, you're like, okay, I got to keep you alive, let's do this.
Yeah. Oh my God, terrifying.
Like I literally still feel like a kid. Like I'm still such a such a baby.
I think that's beautiful though. I feel like that's going to be like, that's another thing that we pride ourselves in, Locke and I, is like being really playful and retaining that like childlike, excitement or curiosity or joy. Like that in itself will make you so much more able to level with your kids. Cause like, and that's why, I saw Dad Hard and I was like, fuck yeah, you're going to be such a fun dad because you're a big kid and kids love that, So yeah, I think it's really important. Amazing. Well, I think that's pretty much time. If you had anything else you wanted to touch on or speak about that you haven't had a chance to, go for it, maybe to leave the listeners with something, but no pressure.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's easy to have quick, deep conversations. Like I think a lot of people want to help others and want to go, are you okay? So I just recommend just with your conversations, start off with some humor, then role model some honesty. And then if you role model the honesty, it makes it so much easier for the other person, and just like listen to what they say and let their answer fuel your question. And you can see how deep you can go in a really quick amount of time. But if you want to have deeper conversations with people, you might be the first one to kind of get it started, to show that you're willing to kind of go there with them. But I'm sure the people listening to this podcast know all about how to have deep, real conversations, but some of the stuff that we're kind of practicing with the work that I do. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, I think that's it. Hey, it's just giving permission by sort of leading by example. And if you say something vulnerable or you share something honestly, then that sets the tone for the conversation, and it gives them the opportunity to kind of follow in kind. So I think, yeah, that's something I teach when I talk about communication in the bedroom or about intimacy or about relationship issues as well. It's like you've got to kind of just be vulnerable in order to give the other person permission to be vulnerable and vice versa. So yeah, that's a beautiful thing to end on. Thank you. And thanks so much for being on the Labia Lounge. It's been awesome. So good chatting to you.
Yeah. As soon as I told people about the name of the podcast, they were like, "Oh my God, that's the best name." And I'm like, "Yep, that's Freya."
Love that. All right, my love. Well, awesome to catch up with you. And I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah.
And that's it, darling hearts. Thank you for stopping by the Labia Lounge. Your bum groove in the couch will be right where you left it, just waiting for you to sink back in for some more double L action next time. And in the meantime, if you'd be a dear and subscribe, share this episode, or leave a review on iTunes, then you can pat yourself on the snatch, because that, my dear, is a downright act of sex-positive feminist activism. And you'd be supporting my vision to educate, empower, demystify, and destigmatize with this here podcast. Also, I'm always open to feedback, topic ideas that you'd love to hear covered, or guest suggestions. So feel free to get in touch via my website at freyagraph.com or say hey over on Insta. My handle is Freya_graph_YMT, and I seriously hope you're following me on there, because damn, we have fun. We have fun. Anyway, later labial legends. I'll see you next time.